The ATM screen glows green in the dark. $12.50. I blink, waiting for more digits to appear. They don't. This account held $150,000 yesterday. My grandfather's gift, 18 years of compound interest. My law school tuition, my future. Now it's gone. My father stole it and gave it to my brother for a fake startup. But he made one mistake. He demanded a DNA test to prove we're family. And the results just destroyed everything he thought he knew. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And I'd love to hear if you've ever had family steal from you. I stand at the ATM for a full minute, staring at that number. $12.50. Not 12,000. Not 15,000. 12.50. My hands start shaking, and it's not from the cold night air. A memory hits me, sharp and clear. I'm 10 years old, holding Grandpa's hand as we walk into this same bank. He's wearing his gray wool coat, the one that smells like pipe tobacco and peppermint. We sit in the banker's office while she types on her computer. Grandpa leans down to my eye level. Audrey, this passbook is going to be yours when you turn 18, he says. His voice is serious, the way adults sound when they're about to say something important. Okay, Grandpa, I say, swinging my legs under the chair. But I want you to promise me something, he continues. What? He puts his hand on my shoulder. This money isn't for dresses or fancy cars, he says. It's fuel for your mind. Your father, he doesn't understand that women need independence too. Don't let anyone take this from you, not even family. I don't fully understand what he means at 10 years old, but I nod anyway because Grandpa's eyes look sad. You're going to do great things, kiddo, he says, pulling me into a hug. But you'll need armor. This is your armor. Now, standing at this ATM 15 years later, I understand. The armor is gone. Someone stripped it away while I wasn't looking. I know exactly who. I drive home to my parents' mansion, my 10-year-old Honda sedan looking pathetic in the circular driveway. Next to it sits Gavin's brand new Ford Raptor, black and gleaming under the security lights. $80,000 of pure excess. I don't bother parking properly. I leave the car at an angle and march toward the front door. The house is lit up like a Christmas display, every window glowing. I can hear classical music playing inside. Mozart, probably. Dad thinks it makes him look cultured. I don't knock. I throw open the door and head straight for his study. The heavy oak doors slam against the walls when I push them. The sound echoes through the house. Garrett sits behind his massive mahogany desk, swirling amber liquid in a crystal glass. He doesn't even look up from his Wall Street journal. Do you know how to knock, Audrey? He asks, his voice bored. Smooth as a scotch he's drinking. Where is it? I demand. My voice shakes, but not with fear. With rage so cold it burns. He finally lowers the paper, looking at me with mild annoyance. Like I'm a fly buzzing too close to his ear. Where is what? He asks. The UTMA account, I say, stepping forward. Grandpa's money. It's gone. The account shows $12.50. He sets down his glass with deliberate slowness. Gone is such a dramatic word, he says. I reallocated it. An investment. You stole it, I correct him, my palms pressing against the cool wood of his desk. That money was in a custodial account. You had a fiduciary duty to protect it for me. Garrett laughs, a dry, barking sound. Don't quote legal jargon at me, little girl, he says. You're not a lawyer yet, and at this rate, you never will be. My stomach drops, but I force myself to stay calm. What did you do with it? I ask. He stands up, walking to the window with his hands in his pockets. I invested it in Gavin's startup, he says, as if this explains everything. Your brother has a vision, Audrey. Aerial business mind. He needs capital to launch. Gavin's startup? I repeat, my voice rising. He's changed his business model 3 times in the last month. Last week it was cryptocurrency. This week it's NFTs. Next week it'll be something else. It's called pivoting, Dad says, turning to face me. It's what entrepreneurs do. You wouldn't understand. I understand that you stole $150,000 from me, I say. That was my tuition, my law school fund, my future. He walks back to his desk, sitting down heavily. Your future? He asks, his tone patronizing. Let's be realistic, Audrey. You're a smart girl, I'll give you that. But you're going to get married, have kids, be a mother. Women don't need law degrees, they need husbands. The words hit me like a physical slap. Are you serious right now? I ask. I'm practical, he says, picking up his glass again. Gavin carries the family name. He's the legacy, the future. You're just insurance, and insurance doesn't need Harvard. I stare at him, waiting for him to laugh, to tell me he's joking. He doesn't. He actually believes what he's saying. Grandpa left that money to me, I say quietly. Not you, not Gavin, me. Your grandfather was a sentimental old fool, Dad replies. He didn't understand modern finance or family dynamics. I'm doing what's best for this family's future. You're not my family anymore, I say. Oh, don't be dramatic, he says, waving his hand dismissively. Go to your room, cool off. You always were too emotional. Before I can respond, the front door opens. The roar of a high-performance engine cuts through the house. Yo, Dad! Gavin's voice booms from the entryway. Come check this out. The Raptor is a beast. I walk out of the study, my father following behind me. Gavin stands in the foyer, spinning a key fob on his finger. He's wearing designer jeans and a leather jacket that probably cost more than my car. $80,000 of pure American muscle, he says, grinning at Dad. Thanks for the early birthday gift. You're the best. He notices me and his grin widens. Oh, hey sis, he says, tossing an apple in the air and catching it. Like the new ride? Where did you get the money for that? I ask, my voice cold. Dad gave it to me, Gavin says, gesturing toward our father. Early birthday present. Plus, startup costs. That's my money, I say. Gavin's grin falters. What? That truck, I say, pointing toward the driveway. You're driving my law school tuition. Come on, Audrey, don't be like that, Gavin says, his tone shifting to defensive. Dad said the money was for family investments. Family investments? I repeat. You're 22 years old with no business plan. I have a plan, Gavin snaps. It's disruptive. It's Web3. Web3? I ask. Last month it was NFTs. The month before that, it was a dating app for dog owners. That's called pivoting, Dad interjects, putting his hand on Gavin's shoulder. Your sister doesn't understand the innovation. Gavin relaxes, smirking at me. Look, sis, when my company takes off, I'll hire you, he says. Secretary, personal assistant, whatever you want. Keep it in the family, right? I look at him, really look at him. I remember when he was 8 years old, crying in his room. Kids at school had bullied him, called me a nerd, called him weak. He'd been devastated, felt like he'd failed to defend me. I'd sat with him on his bed, told him it didn't matter what they said. When I grow up, I'm gonna be rich, he'd said through his tears. Then nobody can laugh at us. I'll buy you a big house, Audrey, I promise. I'd stroked his hair and told him he didn't need to buy me anything. Just be a good person, I'd said. That's all I want. Now that little boy is gone. In his place stands a man who sees me as a future employee. I'm leaving, I say quietly. Leaving? Mom's voice comes from the kitchen doorway. She's wiping her hands on a dish towel, looking concerned. Audrey, don't be ridiculous. I'm done, I say, heading toward the stairs. Don't be dramatic, Mom calls after me. Just apologize to your father for your tone. We'll have a nice dinner and forget this happened. No, I say without turning around. I pack 2 suitcases in 20 minutes. My laptop, my clothes, my diploma framed on the wall. The photo of Grandpa from my nightstand. I leave everything else. The designer clothes Dad bought to make me look presentable at his business dinners. The jewelry Mom insisted I needed for charity galas. The life they built for me without ever asking what I wanted. As I carry my suitcases down the stairs, Dad emerges from his study. Where do you think you're going? He asks. Anywhere but here, I reply. You'll be back, he says confidently. You can't survive on your own. You don't know how the real world works. I pause at the door, looking back at them one last time. I guess we'll find out, I say. Then I walk out into the night. As I drive away, I don't look back at the mansion. The house that was never really mine. 6 months later, my reality is unrecognizable. My dinner tonight is a cup of instant ramen, the sodium-rich broth, the only warmth in my unheated studio apartment. The dream of Harvard is gone, replaced by the grinding reality of survival. I work as a paralegal at a mid-sized law firm, putting in 12-hour days. The pay is barely enough to cover rent and food. My phone buzzes on the desk next to my laptop. Mom. Again. I consider ignoring it, but I know she'll just keep calling. Hello, Mom, I answer, my voice flat. Audrey, honey, she says, her voice trembling with performed victimhood. Your father is so hurt by all this. People are asking questions. They say you've abandoned us. I didn't abandon anyone, I reply, typing away at a legal brief. Dad stole my trust fund. It's family money, she shrieks, the facade cracking immediately. You're ruining our reputation over pennies. $150,000 isn't pennies, I say calmly. And it wasn't family money, it was mine. Your father cut off your phone plan, you know, she continues, her voice turning spiteful. And he canceled your car insurance. He says you need to learn a lesson about loyalty. I look at the phone, then at the cheap prepaid plan I bought last week. Loyalty, I repeat quietly. Yes, loyalty, Mom says. Family takes care of family, and you're being selfish and ungrateful. I sent Dad a demand letter 3 weeks ago, I say. He hasn't responded. Because you're being ridiculous, she shouts. Do you know how embarrassing this is? The neighbors are talking. Our friends are asking questions. Then tell them the truth, I say. Tell them Dad embezzled my trust fund. Embezzled? She gasps. How dare you use that word? He's your father. And he's also a thief, I reply. Then I hang up. I sit in the silence of my tiny apartment, staring at the phone. My hands are shaking, not from fear, but from exhaustion. I haven't slept more than 4 hours a night in months. A knock on my desk startles me back to the present. I'm at the office, not my apartment. I look up to see Diane, my coworker. She's 50 years old with gray streaked hair she doesn't bother to dye. Chain smokes on her breaks despite the office rules. Has eyes that see everything. She drops a wrapped sandwich on my desk without a word. I can't pay you back until Friday, Issei, embarrassed. Did I ask for money? She snaps, pulling out a cigarette even though we're indoors. No, but... Then shut up and eat, she interrupts, lighting the cigarette. You look like a skeleton, kid. I unwrap the sandwich, my hand trembling. Turkey and cheese, fresh bread. My eyes start to water. Thank you, I whisper. She exhales a long stream of smoke, watching me eat. What happened to you? She asks finally. I hesitate, then the words pour out. My father stole my trust fund, I say, between bites. Gave it to my brother for a fake startup. I sent a demand letter. He's ignoring it. Diane nods slowly, as if this makes perfect sense to her. Family's a bitch, isn't it? She says. I almost laugh, but it comes out as a choked sound. I'm drafting a lawsuit, I continue. Embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty. But I don't know if I have the strength to go through with it. Diane leans against my desk, tapping a shap into an empty coffee cup. You want to know what I think? She asks. Yeah, I say quietly. I think you're tougher than you realize, she says. I think your father counted on you backing down. He thinks you're weak because you're his daughter. Prove him wrong. How? I ask. Hit him where it hurts, she says, crushing the cigarette under her shoe. Men like that only speak one language, money. Take his money and you take his power. She walks away, leaving me alone with the sandwich, and a spark of hope I haven't felt in months. That night, I work until 3 a.m. on the complaint. Every word is carefully chosen, every legal citation double-checked. This isn't just a lawsuit. This is war. The next morning, I file it. Audrey Lewis v. Garrett Lewis. Embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, and fraud. Prayer for relief. $150,000 plus interest, trouble damages, and attorney's fees. If I win, that's close to $500,000. If I lose everything, including whatever tiny shred of family I have left. The silence from my parents is immediate and deafening. No calls, no texts, no threats. They think I'm bluffing. They think I'll break and withdraw the suit. They don't know that hunger has sharpened my focus. That poverty has made me ruthless. 3 weeks later, something unexpected happens. An elderly man in a tweed suit walks into our office. The receptionist brings him to my desk. Audrey Lewis? He asks, extending his hand. I'm Marcus Whitfield. I was your grandfather's attorney. My heart skips a beat. I shake his hand, his grip surprisingly strong for a man his age. "What can I do for you, Mr. Whitfield?" I ask. "It's what I can do for you," he says, sitting down uninvited. "Your grandfather's dynasty trust is maturing. You're listed as a potential beneficiary." I feel dizzy suddenly. "I thought Dad already took everything," I say. "He tried," Marcus says with a thin smile. "But your grandfather was very specific about the structure of this trust. It's untouchable by anyone except direct biological descendants." "How much are we talking about?" I ask. $3.7 million, Marcus says, plus a real estate portfolio worth approximately another $2 million. The room spins. $5 million? I whisper. "Give or take," Marcus confirms. "But there are conditions for distribution, strict ones." He pulls a thick document from his briefcase. "Your grandfather despised your father's reckless spending," Marcus explains. "He wanted to ensure only legitimate bloodline descendants could claim the trust, so he included a mandatory DNA verification clause." "DNA?" I ask, confused. "Every claimant must prove biological relation to your grandfather," Marcus says. "Direct descent only, no exceptions." "So Dad, Gavin, and I all need to take a test?" I ask. "Correct," Marcus says. "Your father is furious about it, naturally. He considers it an insult, but it's non-negotiable. No test, no inheritance." "When do we do this?" I ask. "I've scheduled a meeting for next Friday," Marcus says, standing up. "Conference room at my office, 2 p.m. Don't be late." He hands me a business card. "One more thing, Audrey," he says at the door. "Your grandfather specifically requested I tell you something if this day came." "What?" I ask. Marcus smiles, a genuine warmth in his eyes. He said, "The armor is waiting. Don't let them take it twice." After he leaves, I sit at my desk in stunned silence. Diane appears with coffee. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she says. "My grandfather left me a trust," I say, still processing. $5 million, but everyone has to take a DNA test. Diane's eyebrows rise. "Everyone?" she asks. "Me, my dad, my brother," I confirm. "To prove we're biological descendants." Diane sits down, lighting a cigarette. "And your father agreed to this?" she asks. "He doesn't have a choice," I say. "No test, no money." Diane exhales slowly, a knowing look in her eyes. "Interesting," she says. "What?" I ask. "Nothing," she says, standing up. "Just interesting timing. Your lawsuit, now this. The universe works in mysterious ways, kid." Friday arrives faster than I expect. I wear a thrift store blazer that I've tailored myself to fit perfectly. Black slacks, simple blouse, minimal jewelry. I look professional, composed. Inside, I'm terrified. Marcus's law office is in a historic building downtown. The conference room has dark wood paneling and leather chairs. It smells like old books and money. Dad is already there when I arrive. He's sprawled in his chair at the head of the table, legs spread wide, taking up as much space as possible. Mom sits beside him, pale and fidgeting with her pearl necklace. Gavin is on his phone, feet up on the table. "Finally," Dad says when he sees me. "Here to beg for scraps, Audrey? After you try to sue me?" "I'm here to follow Grandpa's instructions," I say calmly, taking a seat. Elias, a junior associate from my firm, sits beside me. He volunteered to represent me pro bono. "Let's get this over with," Dad says to Marcus. "It's a pointless formality. I'm his son. Gavin is his grandson. We all know how this ends." Marcus enters the room carrying a medical kit and documents. "Good afternoon, everyone," he says formally. "We're here to conduct DNA verification as required by the trust documents. A nurse will take buccal swabs from each potential claimant." "This is insulting," Dad says. "I don't need to prove I'm my father's son." "Then you forfeit your claim," Marcus says simply. "Your choice." Dad's jaw clenches, but he doesn't argue further. "Fine," he says. "But I want it on record that my bloodline is pure. Establish the dynasty." Mom drops her purse. Her hands are shaking so badly she can barely pick it up. "Garrett, maybe we should just," she starts. "Nonsense," Dad interrupts. "I want the test. I want everyone to see that I am my father's legitimate heir." He looks directly at me. "And that Audrey, despite her legal theatrics, is just a minor branch on the family tree." "Gavin too?" Mom asks quietly. Her voice is strained in a way I've never heard before. Of course, Gavin, Dad says. He needs to be verified as a direct descendant through me. That's how dynastic trusts work, Susan. Keep up. The nurse, a middle-aged woman in scrubs, enters with her kit. This will only take a moment, she says. I need a cheek swab from each person. Dad goes first, opening his mouth wide and letting her swab. Easy, he says smugly. Next? Gavin goes second, making a joke about cloning himself. The nurse doesn't laugh. I go third, the cotton swab rough against my cheek. And Mrs. Lewis, the nurse, says, turning to Mom. Oh, I'm not a claimant, Mom says quickly. Actually, you are, Marcus interjects. For Gavin to be verified as a direct descendant through Garrett, we need maternal DNA to establish the chain. Standard protocol. Mom's face goes white. I don't think that's necessary, she says, her voice rising. It's required, Marcus says firmly. Unless you want Gavin disqualified. Dad waves his hand impatiently. Just do it, Susan. Stop being difficult. Mom looks like she might be sick, but she opens her mouth and lets the nurse swab her cheek. Her hands are trembling so violently, I can see them from across the table. Results will be ready in 3 business days, the nurse says, packing up her kit. We'll courier them directly to Mr. Whitfield. The room feels heavy, thick with tension I don't fully understand. Dad is oblivious, already talking about which yacht he's going to buy. Mom looks like she's about to cry. And Gavin is back on his phone, completely uninterested. I leave the office feeling unsettled. Something about Mom's reaction bothers me. 3 days later, we reconvene in the same conference room. This time, the air feels different. Charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Marcus sits at the head of the table with a sealed envelope. Dad is confident, leaning back in his chair. Gavin is scrolling through his phone. Mom looks like she hasn't slept in days. Shall we begin? Marcus asks, putting on his reading glasses. Get on with it, Dad says. Marcus opens the envelope with a letter opener. The sound of tearing paper fills the room. Regarding the first claimant, Audrey Lewis, Marcus reads aloud. Probability of paternity relative to Garrett Lewis, 99.9%. Dad smirks. See, she's mine, unfortunately. I keep my face neutral, but my heart is pounding. Marcus adjusts his glasses and continues. Regarding the second claimant, Gavin Lewis, he says, Gavin looks up from his phone. The room goes silent. Marcus pauses, reading the document twice as if to confirm. Probability of paternity relative to Garrett Lewis. The pause feels like an eternity. 0%. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. I hear the hum of the air conditioner. I hear traffic outside. I hear my own heartbeat. Excuse me, Dad says quietly. His voice is dangerous, controlled. Read that again. 0%, Marcus repeats clearly. Gavin shares no genetic markers with Garrett Lewis. He is not a biological descendant of the grantor. Time stops. Gavin laughs nervously. Wait, what? That's a mistake, right? You mixed up the samples or something? The lab ran the test 3 times, Marcus says. I can provide the full report if you'd like. Dad doesn't move. He just stares at Marcus as if the words haven't fully registered. Then, slowly, he turns his head to look at Gavin. Really look at him. At the son he's poured everything into. The golden child, the heir, the investment. Then Dad turns to look at Mom. Susan has shrunk into her chair, tears streaming silently down her face. Susan? Dad asks, his voice trembling. She doesn't answer. Susan, he repeats, louder this time. It was 20 years ago, she sobs, the dam breaking completely. You were always working, always at the office. You never came home. Todd, listen to me. Todd? Dad's voice is barely a whisper now. Todd Miller? My business rival? The man who tried to destroy my real estate deals in '98? Mom nods, her face in her hands. The realization hits Dad like a physical blow. His face turns from red to purple to a sickly gray. You're telling me, he says slowly, standing up, that I have spent the last 22 years raising, funding, and grooming the biological son of my worst enemy? I'm sorry, Mom cries. I'm so sorry, Garrett. Sorry? Dad's voice explodes. Sorry? I stole my daughter's college fund to invest in his son? I bought him an $80,000 truck. I've been planning to hand him my entire business. Gavin stands up, his face pale. Dad, wait. Don't call me that, Garrett hisses. I'm not your father. Todd Miller is your father, that worthless piece of trash who tried to ruin me. But I didn't know, Gavin says desperately. Mom never told me. Get out, Dad says quietly. What? Gavin asks. Get out, Dad screams, his voice inhuman. Both of you, get out of my sight. You're not my family. You never were. Mom stands up, trying to reach for him. Garrett, please, we can... Don't touch me, he says, stepping back. Don't ever touch me again. Marcus clears his throat. Given that Gavin Lewis is not a biological descendant, he is disqualified from the trust, he says. Audrey Lewis remains the sole eligible beneficiary. Everyone turns to look at me. I sit frozen, trying to process what just happened. My brother isn't my brother. My father just lost everything he thought mattered. And I just inherited $5 million. This meeting is concluded, Marcus says, standing up. Mrs. Lewis, Mr. Miller, please leave the premises. Mom and Gavin stumble out of the room, her sobbing, him shell-shocked. Dad remains standing, staring at nothing. Mr. Lewis, Marcus says gently, you should go home. Dad looks at Marcus, then at me. You, he says, his voice hoarse. You're the only one who's actually mine. I don't respond. There's nothing to say. He leaves, moving like a man who's aged 30 years and 30 minutes. Marcus sits back down across from me. That was unexpected, he says mildly. Yeah, I managed to say. Your grandfather was a wise man, Marcus continues. I think he suspected something like this might be revealed. That's why he insisted on the DNA clause. He knew? I ask. He suspected, Marcus clarifies. He never said anything directly, but he was very specific about the bloodline verification. Very insistent. I sit in the quiet conference room, my mind spinning. What happens now? I ask. Now, Marcus says, we begin the distribution process. $3.7 million in liquid assets. The real estate portfolio. All of it goes to you. And Dad? I ask. Gets nothing, Marcus says simply. He's a direct descendant, so under normal circumstances, he'd be entitled. But your grandfather included a clause that excluded any heir who willfully misappropriated funds belonging to another beneficiary. Your lawsuit against him for embezzlement triggers that exclusion. I almost laugh. Grandpa thought of everything. He really did love you, Audrey, Marcus says softly. He wanted you to be safe. He knew your father would try to control you through money, so he made sure you'd have your own. I leave Marcus's office in a daze. Outside, the afternoon sun is too bright. Everything feels surreal. My phone rings. Unknown number. I answer. Audrey, it's Gavin. I almost hang up, but something makes me listen. What do you want? I ask. I need to talk to you, he says. His voice sounds rough, like he's been crying. There's nothing to talk about, I say. Please, sis, he begs. I know we're not actually related, but we grew up together. We're still siblings in the ways that matter. I need help. Help? I repeat. Dad kicked me out, he says. He threw Mom and me out of the house last night. I have nowhere to go. My credit cards are maxed out. The Raptor got repossessed this morning because it was in his name. And? I ask coldly. I need money, he says. Just a loan, to get back on my feet. You're going to get Grandpa's trust, right? You can spare a few thousand. We're family. I stand on the sidewalk, people walking past me. Normal people with normal problems. We're not family, Gavin, I say. But we grew up together, he protests. We shared a house for 18 years. That has to count for something. You laughed when Dad stole my college fund, I say quietly. You called me your future secretary. You drove around in my trust fund while I ate ramen in a freezing apartment. I didn't know where the money came from, he says desperately. You knew it wasn't yours, I reply. Audrey, please, he begs. I'm 22. I don't have any skills. Dad never made me get a real job. I don't know how to survive without money. Then you'll learn, I say. The same way I did. You're really going to abandon me? He asks. Abandon you? I repeat. Gavin, I was never there to begin with. You made sure of that. I hang up. He calls back immediately. I block the number. The fallout over the next few weeks is brutal and swift. Dad initiates what his lawyer will later call a scorched earth response. He files for divorce from Mom, citing adultery and fraud. He publicly disinherits Gavin in the local newspaper. He tries to contest the trust distribution, but Marcus shuts him down with surgical precision. I hear through a neighbor that Dad stood in the driveway with a baseball bat one night, smashed the windshield of the Raptor before the repo company came, screamed that he paid for it, so he had the right to destroy it. Meanwhile, my lawsuit against him proceeds. His mental state collapsing, he missed court deadlines. He fires his lawyers in fits of paranoia, convinced they're conspiring against him. We win a default judgment. Not just the $150,000 he stole, but treble damages for willful theft and fraud. $475,000. A week after the judgment, Gavin shows up at my office. He looks terrible. Same clothes he wore at the DNA meeting, now wrinkled and stained. Hair unwashed, dark circles under his eyes. Audrey, he says, trying to approach my desk. Security stops him in the lobby. I come down to see what he wants. Please, he says when he sees me. I've been staying in my car. I haven't eaten in 2 days. Dad won't answer my calls. Mom is staying with her sister who hates me. You're the only one left. I'm not giving you money, Gavin, I say. Not money, he says quickly. Just help, advice, a reference for a job, anything. A reference, I ask. For what? You've never worked a day in your life. I can learn, he insists. I'll do anything, please. We're siblings, right? I look at him. I remember the little boy who cried because he couldn't defend me from bullies, who promised to buy me a house when he grew up. That boy is gone, if he ever really existed. Biologically, no, I say calmly. We're not siblings. Legally, no, because you're not my father's son. And emotionally? I pause, letting him see my face, letting him see that there's nothing there. No pity, no guilt, no familial obligation. That ship sailed when you laughed at me for having $12.50 to my name, I say. I turn to the security guard. Please escort Mr. Miller out of the building, I say, and flag his photo. He's not to return. Audrey, please, Gavin shouts as they take his arms. I'm sorry, I'll change, I'll be better. No, I say simply. You won't. They drag him out, his voice echoing in the marble lobby. I feel nothing but a quiet sense of order being restored. Diane is waiting when I return to my desk. That was cold, kid, she says. But she's smiling. He made his choices, I say, sitting down. Now he lives with them. Your grandfather would be proud, Diane says, putting a hand on my shoulder. You've got steel in your spine, just like him. 3 months later, the trust distribution is finalized. $3.7 million hits my account. The real estate portfolio transfers to my name. I am, by any measure, wealthy. The first thing I do is pay off Elias for his work on the lawsuit. He tries to refuse, but I insist. You fought for me when no one else would, I tell him. That's worth far more than money. The second thing I do is offer Diane a job. Doing what? She asks, suspicious. Being my office manager, I say. I'm starting my own practice. Family law. Trust and estate litigation. I need someone who doesn't take shit from anyone. She lights a cigarette, thinking. What's it pay? She asks. Twice what you make here, I say. Plus benefits. Real health insurance. When do I start? She asks. The third thing I do is visit Grandpa's grave. It's a clear Saturday morning, the kind he loved. I bring flowers and a copy of the trust distribution documents. I sit on the grass next to his headstone. I used the armor, Grandpa, I say out loud. Just like you told me to. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. The wind rustles through the trees. I like to think it's him, acknowledging me. I stay there for an hour, just sitting, feeling peace for the first time in months. The final confrontation comes when I least expect it. I'm having coffee at a downtown cafe when Dad walks in. He's lost weight, his suit hanging loose on his frame. Hair grayer than I remember. He sees me and walks over. Audrey, he says, can we talk? I consider saying no, but curiosity wins out. 5 minutes, I say, not inviting him to sit. He sits anyway. I've been thinking, he starts, his hands shaking slightly, about everything that happened, and I realize now that I made mistakes. Mistakes, I repeat flatly. I stole from you, he says, and I'm surprised by the admission. I prioritized Gavin over you. I said terrible things. Yes, I agree. You did all of those things. But we're family, he continues, looking at me with desperate eyes. I'm your father. You're my blood. My only real child, as it turns out. We can start over. I have experience, you have capital. We could build something together. He reaches across the table for my hand. I pull it back. You don't want a daughter, Dad, I say quietly. You want a lifeline. I'm your father, he insists, his voice breaking. That has to mean something. It did, I say. Once, a long time ago. I stand up, gathering my things. Blood doesn't make you family, I tell him. Loyalty does, trust does, love does. You never gave me any of those things. Audrey, please, he says, standing too. I'm begging you. I've lost everything. The house is in foreclosure, my business is failing. Susan took me to the cleaners in the divorce. You're all I have left. No, I say. I'm not. What? He asks, confused. I gesture to the window where Diane is waiting outside, smoking a cigarette. Elias is with her, laughing at something she said. They're my family, I say. They fed me when I was hungry. They fought for me when I was weak. They chose me, and I chose them. I look back at my father, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not as a powerful patriarch, but as a small, broken man. You're a liability I'm writing off, I tell him. That's business language, Dad. You taught me that. I walk toward the door. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, I say over my shoulder. Grandpa taught me that. I push open the door and step into the sunlight. Behind me, my father sits alone at the table. I don't look back. Outside, Diane hands me a coffee. How'd it go, she asks. Exactly how it needed to, I say. We walk down the street together, the three of us. My chosen family. 6 months after that, I stand in the lobby of my new law office. The sign on the door reads, Lewis and Associates, Trust and Estate Litigation. My specialty is fighting for people whose families tried to rob them. I win a lot. The office has floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture. Nothing like Dad's dark, oppressive study. This place is light, open, welcoming. Diane sits at the front desk, managing appointments with terrifying efficiency. Elias has his own office down the hall. We're a team. I stand at my window, looking out over the city. My phone buzzes with a news alert. Garrett Lewis, once prominent businessman, files for bankruptcy. I feel nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just nothing. That chapter is closed. Diane appears at my door. Your 3 o'clock is here, she says. Young woman, early 20s. Her stepfather emptied her college fund. Send her in, I say. The young woman enters, looking scared and lost. She reminds me of myself 6 months ago. Hi, I say, offering my hand. I'm Audrey. Tell me what happened. As she starts to talk, I take notes. I know exactly how to help her because I've been where she is. And I know that sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you end up with. Grandpa was right about everything. The money was fuel, but the engine, that was me all along. If you've ever had to choose between your biological family and your future, let me know in the comments. Would you have helped Gavin, or would you have done exactly what I did? Was I too harsh on my father, or did he get what he deserved? If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories. See you on the next one.